Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar on high quality pre-K teacher qualifications. We will be going over updates, resources, and best practices for updates made for 2024. So we have a full agenda. And what we will be talking about today is we will be going over high quality pre-K legislation and updates per House Bill 2729. We'll go a little bit over certification as it applies to the high quality pre-K component for teacher qualifications, professional development resources. We'll talk a little bit about coaching and mentoring best practices. We will go over Texas Rising Star information. We have a representative from Texas School Ready. We will briefly cover ECDS coding highlights as it pertains to teacher qualifications, and then we will go over resources. At the end of this session, we will have optional breakout rooms with our presenters today, should you have further questions regarding specific components, specific options from the teacher qualifications. And we also ask that you use a Q&A feature should you have any further clarifying questions. We will go ahead and get started. Okay, so we'll begin with the teacher qualification updates per legislation and House Bill 2729. So as a reminder, the high quality pre-K qualifications include the following components. You can find this information in Texas Education Code Section 29. Today, we will be focusing only on the teacher qualifications. Per the PDF that was sent prior, everything is linked within the slide deck, should you want to follow along on your end. I did want to note that this content is going to apply to pre-K for classroom teachers only, since that is what is within the high quality pre-K components. There will be some caveats that we'll mention that have to do with pre-K 3. But for this session, we will talk about pre-K for classroom teachers only. So specific legislation related to high quality pre-K begins with statute Texas Education Code Section 29, which states that each teacher for a pre-kindergarten program class must be certified under subchapter B, chapter 21. The certification requirements are stated as follows on the slide. So this webinar will cover information specifically about the high quality pre-K additional teacher qualifications, but we did want to provide you with the statute related to certification as it's one part of that component. Our division does get a lot of questions regarding general early childhood certification. And we did want to let you know that we actually have the certification team present on this webinar, which is awesome. So we're able to answer any specific questions you have related to early childhood certification. We'll also be offering a breakout room at the end, should you have any further questions for that team. But we just wanted to point out the statute related to that component within the high quality pre-K teacher qualifications. So commissioner's rule in the Texas Administrative Code states for LEAs that in a format prescribed by the Texas Education Agency, a school district or an open enrollment charter school shall report the additional teacher qualifications described in subsection D of this section, and subsection D states that each teacher of record in a high quality pre-kindergarten program class must be certified under that Education Code, Chapter 21, Subchapter B, and have one of the following additional qualifications, which we will see on the next slide. So this is where we get our additional qualifications information from. What we do want to highlight are the changes made by House Bill 2729, which are related to contracted entities only. And it states that each teacher for a pre-kindergarten class provided by an entity with which a school district contracts to provide a pre-kindergarten program must be supervised by a person who meets the requirements under that subsection B above and have one of the additional qualifications. So we'll look a little bit more at, on that in the following slides. So the additional teacher qualifications reflected on this slide include the following and pertain to LEA provided pre-K4 classrooms only. So for example, in option 1, the teacher has to be appropriately certified and have certification offered through training by the accredited Association Montessori International or through the Montessori Accreditation Council for Teacher Education. Option number 2 is the teacher does have to be appropriately certified and meet one of the options for professional development and coaching hours that we will actually go into a little bit more detail in a few moments. Option number 3 is the teacher has to be appropriately certified and have a child development associate credential. Option number 4 is the teacher has to be appropriately certified to teach early childhood and have documented completion of the Texas School Ready Training Program, which is a TSR comprehensive, and we actually will go into detail about that in just a bit. Option number 5 is the teacher has to be appropriately certified and have an associate or baccalaureate degree in early childhood education, early childhood special education, or a non-early childhood education degree with a documented minimum of 15 units of coursework in early childhood education. Option number 6 for LEA teachers is that they do have to be appropriately certified and have at least 8 years experience of teaching in a nationally accredited childcare program or Texas Rising Star program. So what you see highlighted here is what was updated by House Bill 2729, which went into effect September 1st, 2023. So some common LEA teacher qualification questions that we receive include the following. The first question, how do I determine if a degree is an ECE degree? So that's that one option that's talking about the different early childhood degrees. So you have to keep in mind that ECE covers a grade span of birth up to 3rd grade. So therefore the LEA would need to determine if the degree falls within that scope of instruction. The other way you can think about this is if you think about those 15 units of coursework that have to be in early childhood education or early childhood special education can be used to meet this requirement. Another question we get is it possible to have a self-contained, high-quality pre-K4 classroom? And if so, does the ECE or ECSE teacher, as the teacher of record, have to be certified and meet the additional qualifications? So yes, it is possible to have a self-contained classroom that is also a high-quality pre-K4 classroom. And yes, the teacher, as the teacher of record for that classroom, does need to be certified and meet the additional high-quality teacher requirements. And a caveat to that on the next question is, do the additional qualifications apply to the 2 teachers working in a co-teaching classroom? So a co-teach classroom will have those 2 teachers of records. The students that are eligible for both pre-K4 and special education would be assigned to the general education teacher of record, and therefore that teacher must meet the additional qualifications in addition to being certified. The students that are ineligible for pre-K4 but are eligible for those special education services would be assigned to the special education teacher. This teacher must be appropriately certified, but they do not need to meet the additional qualifications. And that is specifically for a co-teaching classroom. If you have questions, you can use the Q&A feature and we will go over any remaining questions at the end of the session. Okay, so here are some common questions we get in regards to certification and how it applies to the teacher qualifications. So our pre-K4 only teachers who work within a charter school or district of innovation required to be certified? The answer is yes. All school districts, open enrollment charter schools, and districts of innovation must employ pre-kindergarten teachers who are appropriately certified and meet one of the teacher qualification options as we mentioned in the prior slides, if they are serving eligible 4-year-old students. Can a pre-K teacher be exempt from certification? The answer is no. Pre-kindergarten, pre-K4 teachers require that state certification. That includes special education, bilingual, ESL, and those pre-K4 assignments. And it is required compliance with federal and state requirements. And teachers need that appropriate SBEC issued certification, as you see here, when they are hired for those classrooms. So again, no exemption for our pre-K4 teachers. What are the pathways for a teacher to become certified to teach pre-K? So there are 2 pathways in Texas to obtain that early childhood pre-K3 certification. That is either through completion of an approved Texas Educator Preparation Program or EPP program, or completion of a credential review to transfer certification from another state to Texas. Again, we have our certification team to answer questions at the end of the session. And we also wanted to share the certification information should you have any specific questions related to early childhood certification. So now looking at the additional teacher qualifications for pre-K teachers in a contracted pre-K classroom. And again, this was added from House Bill 2729. So note that teachers in a contracted entity do not have to be certified to teach those early childhood pre-K4 classrooms, but they must be supervised by a person who meets those requirements under that subsection B, which is that certification piece, and meet one of the additional qualifications as listed here. So they're similar options, but they're specifically laid out for those teachers in a contracted entity. We did want to highlight some pieces from administrative code. So in section F, it does state that a teacher of a bilingual or ESL program class provided by an entity with which a school district contracts to provide that pre-kindergarten program must be appropriately certified for the grade and content and with the appropriate supplemental certification. So that's either that bilingual or an ESL piece. We wanted to note this because this is the only caveat to that non-certified teacher in a contracted entity classroom. So you have to pay attention to that bilingual or ESL program classification. The other section we wanted to highlight, section G of administrative code, states that the pre-kindergarten partnership supervisor shall meet the requirements they can supervise multiple pre-kindergarten classrooms, and their role is to ensure programmatic compliance and support classroom instruction, the developmental needs of students, continuous quality improvement, and professional development. What we wanted to note here is this is done at the discretion of the LEA in terms of who that supervisor would be to help the teacher in the contracted entity classroom. And we wanted to note that this does not mean it has to be an actual supervisor as far as an administrator. The supervisor just needs to meet those high quality pre-K components and be able to work with the teacher in a supervisory type of role to make sure that they're in compliance with what's stated here in section G. A commonly asked question that we get in terms of contracted entity classrooms is if the teacher is teaching a pre-K3 and pre-K4 combo class in that contracted entity classroom, does the teacher need to be certified? So yes, a teacher instructing a pre-K3 and pre-K4 combo class in a contracted entity must be certified because of the pre-K3 students in that classroom. So again, that's another caveat you have to think of when thinking about that pre-K3 and pre-K4 combo class in a contracted entity. Okay, so we are going to transition to professional development. And again, we'll answer all Q&A questions at the end of the session. Okay, so professional development, we know through historical data from the last few years is the most used option as far as those teacher qualification components. So we wanted to highlight professional development and coaching best practices as part of this webinar. So as you can see, professional development falls under that option number 2 for an LEA or option number 3 for a contracted entity. There are two ways to meet this option. As you can see in option A, the teacher can, prior to the assignment in that class, can bring a completed 150 cumulative hours of documented professional development, which addresses the pre-kindergarten guidelines, in addition to other relevant topics related to high-quality pre-K over a consecutive 5-year period. So this is bringing in that documentation prior to assignment as the teacher. Or option B, the teacher who has not completed that training prior to the assignment will complete 30 hours of the 150 cumulative hours of documented professional development, with 15 of those 30 hours being in a coaching mentoring relationship before the beginning of the next school year. So the professional development shall address topics relevant to high quality pre-K and other ECE related topics. What we wanted to note that ECE specific topics can cover the age span from birth through 3rd grade, and it is up to the LEA to make the determination if the teacher has met that component. So a key here is really that documentation piece and working with your LEA to make sure that that requirement is being met. So we wanted to share just some documentation examples. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are some ways that documentation could be used for this teacher qualification component. We wanted to highlight administrative code that states a school district or an open enrollment charter school shall maintain locally and provide at the TEA's request the necessary documentation to ensure fidelity of those high quality pre-K program implementation components. So some examples, if you are showing documentation of the Montessori option, CDA credential, or your degree, those documentation examples could be certification on file, whether it's in the Human Resources Department or some sort of professional documentation platform such as TechPeds, or the proof of degree or credential completion. We did want to note a little bit of information about TechPeds, which is the Texas Early Childhood Professional Development system. It's a free platform that we have a lot of information on our teacher qualifications website, and that link will be shared at the end of the session. Professional development and coaching mentoring hours can be documented in a few different ways. So there can be certificates from external professional development sources, such as webinars, conferences, or symposiums. Certificates are vetted documentation of internal professional development. So think of those district planning day trainings, agendas, assign-ins that all count as proof of that PD. Or it can be university college courses taken beyond the degree program that show professional development hours in early childhood. Coaching and mentoring documentation can be coaching logs that are signed or vetted by the coach or mentor. Professional learning community documentation, even if that's done within a group setting, as long as the teacher is engaging in that type of coaching or mentoring relationship. It could be notes from coaching or mentoring sessions, whether it's observation and feedback, walkthrough notes, teacher induction sessions, or it could also be virtual coaching session notes. If the option being used is the Texas School Ready Training Program, it can be documented proof of Texas School Ready training completion. And if the option being used is the 8 years experience of teaching in that nationally accredited child care program or Texas Rising Star program, you could use employee verification filled out from that accredited child care program showing that the teacher had 8 years of experience in that program. Could be a letter of recommendation, proof of employment, verified source of employment. If it is a Texas Rising Star program, which we will also talk about later in the session, the child care program can also be verified as being a TRS program on the website. So we do want to highlight a vetted list of professional development resources that we do have available on our TEA Early Childhood Educator resource page. And we also have our own TEA Early Childhood Educator Resources webinars webpage. This might have been where you saw the registration for this webinar. There are recorded sessions that we have that districts can use towards professional development support, or teachers can review and document that they use the training as part of professional development. Here's a list of some other TEA and non-TEA professional development resources that have been vetted through our division or through TEA. And all of these links have specific professional development opportunities that can also be used to help meet this option. So some common questions we get about professional development. Does a teacher have to continue reporting professional development and coaching hours if they completed the 150 hours? So once a teacher has met those 150 hours, they would have completed that PD and coaching option for meeting the additional teacher qualification. So the district would not require additional PD documentation from the teacher for the remainder of the years that the teacher is employed as that pre-K4 teacher. And the teacher would continue to be coded as O3 and ECDS for the remainder of the time that they're employed as that pre-K teacher in an LEA. However, we do recommend that teachers engage in professional development and coaching mentoring opportunities as it is a best practice. The other common question we get is we have a teacher who already meets one of the additional options for example, CDA. Do they have to complete the professional development and coaching hours? So the answer is no, because you only have to adhere to one option. But again, we recommend that teachers engage in the professional development and coaching just as a best practice, although it does not need to be reported through ECDS. And we will look at those coding options in just a bit. So coaching and mentoring best practices. We did want to share coaching and mentoring is really a vital component for supporting educators through teaching and learning outcomes. And again, although it is a part of the high quality pre-K teacher qualification options, it's the best practice to engage in for all educators. So what we wanted to share is that coaching and mentoring programs and resources can come from multiple sources, including those adopted instructional material guidance, through coaches, administrators, or PLCs in the district. It can come from new teacher induction programs, district-provided coaches and mentors that help with instructional practices with teachers in those classrooms, utilization of ESC programs to help with those coaching and mentoring opportunities, and then using district-approved evidence-based frameworks, for example, through your professional learning communities. So what we want to emphasize around coaching and mentoring are the best practices that occur when educators engage with these practices. And really what we want to highlight as the core elements of mentoring coaching is really that one-to-one relationship between the mentor coach and the teacher. We also want to highlight the on-the-job support that focuses on the development of specific early childhood education knowledge, skills, or practices that can be used in daily work with children. We also want to highlight a shared commitment to continuous improvement to ensure positive outcomes for all of our children. And a lot of this language is specifically found in administrative code under that professional development and coaching option. Another question we get a lot of time is who can the mentor or coach be? And so our recommendation, and again, based off of administrative code, is that the mentor coach should be an early childhood expert. It can be an early childhood staff member from your local regional education service center. It could be an instructional coach within or outside of the school district. It could be a principal or another leadership administrator with an early childhood background within the school district. The caveat with that is we do advise that the supervisor keep their mentoring coaching role separate from their supervisory role. It could be a coach from an early childhood agency, such as the Children's Learning Institute, CLI, or Texas School Ready. It could be a peer teacher who is considered an expert in early childhood practices. It could be a coach, leader, facilitator of an established professional learning community. So lots of different options to think about. When we think about coaching and mentoring cycles, it's very common to engage in a coaching and mentoring relationship over a designated time frame, such as an 6 to 8 week coaching cycle. What we typically see in these mentoring coaching cycles to consider is that collaborative action planning and goal setting, learning opportunities between the coach, mentor, and the teacher, intentional practice and feedback, such as co-teaching or observations with feedback, and reflection on current practices to help revise professional learning goals. A mentoring or coaching relationship can be implemented through a variety of methods, including but not limited to face-to-face interactions, such as ongoing planned and unplanned interactions between the mentor, coach, and the teacher. Professional learning communities, such as ongoing planned interactions between the mentor, coach, and it could be a group of teachers that are working together on the learning with the same knowledge, skill, or practice in early childhood settings. It could be virtual-based coaching, which includes ongoing planned interactions between the mentor, coach, and the teacher that are facilitated through some form of technology rather than that face-to-face interaction. Or it could be a hybrid or combination of these methods. We wanted to mention an opportunity from TEA called the Mentor Program Allotment. This was from House Bill 3, passed in 2019. And this statute exists for new teacher mentoring, and the creation of the Mentor Program Allotment was created. There's multiple resources available and a link provided in the slide for more information should you want to go through this route to provide an approved mentoring training program. So some common coaching mentoring questions that we receive: would meeting with teachers in a campus PLC or professional learning community count as mentoring coaching hours? So yes, a PLC that has ongoing planned interactions between the coach and the group of teachers or the specific teacher within that group is working or learning on the same early childhood knowledge, skills, or practices that could be counted towards those mentoring coaching hours. It's important that the PLC, though, is implemented in that cyclical manner over a designated time frame, and that there is a strategic focus for each meeting. So it's very tailored to the teacher. If a district is anticipating hiring a pre-K certified teacher, does the teacher have to have the first 30 hours of PD, including those 15 hours of mentoring coaching, completed before the teacher can be hired? So the answer is no. The newly teacher can be hired and work towards those 30 hours of professional development and coaching. But we need to make sure that those hours are completed before the district submits its annual data into the early childhood data system in June. And again, this only applies if the teacher is utilizing this option to meet the additional teacher qualifications. So now we will explore information about the new option from House Bill 2729 related to Texas Rising Star. And as a review, this option now falls under option number 6 for LEA teachers, or options number 1, 2, and 5 for a teacher in a contracted entity. So what is Texas Rising Star? Texas Rising Star is a program, a quality rating and improvement system for child care programs participating in the Texas Workforce Commission's Child Care Services Program. Texas Rising Star certification is available to licensed centers and licensed and registered child care home facilities that meet the certification criteria. The legislative change in 2021 moved Texas Rising Star from voluntary to mandatory for child care services, or what we call CCS programs. Texas Rising Star is governed by child care rules, which is under the Texas Administrative Code. And the rules are the baseline for implementation of the program and outline the requirements for eligibility and continued participation. Entry level is a new designation that is tied to the change of mandatory participation for these CCS programs. It is the base level for any non-certified program that is also a CCS provider, and it relies on compliance with CCR licensing standards. Texas Rising Star offers 3 levels of quality certification: 2-star, 3-star, and 4-star. And it encourages childcare and early learning programs to attain progressively higher levels of quality. These certification levels are tied to graduated enhanced reimbursement rates for children receiving these childcare scholarships. To become certified, the childcare program must be assessed over 4 categories. Category 1 is director and staff qualifications and training. Category 2 is teacher-child interactions. Category 3 is program administration. Category 4 is indoor and outdoor environments. And these assessments have multiple measures or standards that the program and its staff are observed and scored on. Those star levels are determined based on a hybrid scoring model, and the structural measures are required to be met in order to be certified. It is required for these programs to participate in a continuous quality improvement process via a plan, which is derived from collaboration with their assigned free mentor to help them through the process. And that mentor's role is really to provide technical assistance and coaching support to those childcare and early learning programs. And mentors regularly consult with programs to develop those continuous quality improvement plans. Benefits of being in the Texas Rising Star program include stipends and scholarships, professional development, classroom materials. Additionally, Texas Rising Star certified programs receive higher reimbursement rates for children enrolled in CCS. And TWC, the Texas Workforce Commission, has published a statewide revenue calendar template that helps childcare and early learning programs forecast that revenue impact based on enhanced reimbursement rates. Programs also have access to numerous resources and supports via CLI Engage, the Children's Learning Institute, which offers free professional development tools and resources to improve the quality of childcare and early learning education programs. All programs that are seeking Texas Rising Star certification must have these requirements. They have to have an active agreement with the board to accept the referral from the TWC Child Care Services Program. They need to have a permanent license or registration from Child Care Regulations, have at least 12 months of licensing history with CCR, demonstrate a high level of compliance with those minimum standards, and ensure that a center director account is created in the workforce registry, and that the director encourages their staff members to create individual accounts within the workforce registry to maintain documentation. Here are some resources available. That's also available is linked in the PDF that was provided for y'all in the email. And this information covers all of the Texas Rising Star information and applicable documents. You can also find public data regarding Texas Rising Star through the website, and that includes childcare by the numbers, which is its own webpage within the TWC website, and that shows statewide and local workforce board data relating to the number of programs certified, children in care, and star levels achieved across the state or for a specific board. The TechPEDS Workforce Registry, so that's Texas Early Childhood Professional Development System. It's a free online platform, and it helps ensure your records stay safe and are accessible to you whenever needed. And that is also encouraged for our Texas Rising Star programs. Should you have further questions, you can reach out to your local workforce board or speak to one of the staff members or mentors. If you're working with a program who has questions, definitely point them to their mentor or board, or you can contact the Contact Us page on the Texas Rising Star website, And there's a direct contact on this slide, Lindsay Heel, who is also available for further questions. Okay, so now we will talk about the Texas School Ready option. And as a review, this falls, excuse me, under option 4, where a teacher can meet the option through completion of the Texas School Ready training program, otherwise known as TSR Comprehensive. We did want to note that this program is not an additional qualification option for teachers in a contracted entity. This is only an option for teachers in a district setting. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer Lindley, who's going to tell us more about Texas School Ready.
Hi, everyone. We're really excited to be here today. I also wanted to let everyone know one of my colleagues, Rachel Martinez, is also on. She's the Assistant Director over Texas School Ready, and we'll be both in the room after the presentation if you've got any questions. Before we kick off, I just wanted to give everyone a quick overview of TSR Comprehensive, which is always hard because it's a big program. The program's existed for over 20 years, and its focus is really on raising quality. But the key part is the one that's highlighted at the top, that it's really a facilitated teacher professional development program. Texas School Ready started as a state-funded research study to determine what inputs would make the most impact in early childhood settings, regardless of the teacher's previous background and experience and what kind of program they were in or where the program was located. And the components you see on the screen have really facilitated comprehensive professional development combined with really technology-driven and intentional progress monitoring that's supported by a coach, whether that's face-to-face or remote or virtual, along with some evidence-based curriculum and materials, turned out to be the ingredients that were the most effective. So you just heard about Texas Rising Star, which is one of our state's 2 statewide quality improvement programs. Texas School Ready is the other. The program has had a few names over the years, but we currently call it TSR Comprehensive. And Lauren, if you could go to the next slide. I wanted to really highlight that because when you're looking at Texas School Ready or TSR Comprehensive, you might have teachers that completed this program in the past. As I said, it's been around for 20 years and it's had names over that time. Its original research study name was the Texas Early Education Model, or TEAM. Also, there were quite a few school districts that had grants maybe 15 years ago through another funding mechanism that was called the Prekindergarten Early Start Grant, or PEAKS. Also, they might have been in it when it was called just Texas School Ready, or its name that it's had for about almost 10 years, which is TSR Comprehensive. So this line really applies to any teachers who would have completed the program under any of these names. I wanted to highlight that any teachers currently in the program are receiving completion certificates when they reach the end of their participation. You can see an example of what the one we provided at the end of this school year looks like. As you can see, there's no hours on this certificate. It's really documenting participation completion. We do award separate certificates for training and coaching that happens in the program. If you go to the next one, Lauren. So if you've got any teachers that might be in this area and want to get a TSR completion certificate to meet these high quality pre-K requirements, there's sort of 2 things, and they're based on year. So anybody that has completed this program since 2017 has gotten a certificate from us that's very similar to what the one I just showed on the last screen. If the teachers might have had that in the past and lost it, there's a way to request a new one, and I have that on our next slide to show y'all. But for anyone that was in the program earlier than that, so the first year we had teachers completing was 2005, and then through 2017, when the original iteration of the high quality pre-K program came about through older legislation, we started awarding certificates. But if anyone needs one that is in those prior years, they can simply request one from us. They have to fill out a quick form that includes, what their name might have been at that time, if it's changed, what school they were in, and the name of their coach or the community they were in at that time, just so we can try and confirm participation. Go to the next one, Lauren. So I've got a couple QR codes up here and some links. So if you've got any teachers that need to request a certificate, they can fill out that quick form that we have there. Inevitably, when we talk about TSR Comprehensive, people are interested in possibly participating. So I've also put a link up to join our wait list. We always have a standing wait list, and we're currently in a recruitment period for the new school year. The only caveat is that due to the current funding mechanisms for the program at the state level, any programs that are in LEAs, participating classrooms have to be in partnership with childcare or Head Start. That's a current eligibility requirement that we have. And then the next one, Lauren. And finally, I wanted to really highlight that we have an alignment page for how CLI Engage can align to the high quality pre-K program. Especially, it's come up a couple times about how we work with Texas Rising Star, and also we have a lot of free training that's available, including new trainings that were launched about the new Texas Prekindergarten guidelines that were posted in 2022, and lots of other options. Teachers can request a CPE certificate as soon as they finish, and those are all available at no cost to all school districts here in Texas. And I also wanted to add, I know Lauren has mentioned the Texas Early Childhood Professional Development System and the Workforce Registry earlier on the call. If anyone has any questions about those, please hop into our room later in the call. I'm happy to answer any questions about that either, along with Texas School Ready. So Rachel and I will be there if we can answer anything. Thank you, Lauren. I hope I talked fast enough.
Yes, thank you so much. And again, we are here to support you after the session, should you have any specific questions related to TSR, TRS, or TechPeds. Okay, so moving along, we just wanted to highlight some of the components related to teacher qualifications and the early childhood data system and coding. And within the Texas student data system, we want to pay attention to the teacher requirement code table 207. We want to ensure first that we're looking at school year 24-25. And we did want to mention that updates from House Bill 2729 are already reflected in the code table. So I do want you to take a moment to notice the new addition of code 98, which pertains to teachers who do not meet the requirement. And what you're seeing here is the code table for teachers in an LEA. This slide, you are seeing the code table for teachers in a contracted entity. And I also want you to notice code 99, which will apply to teachers who do not have that additional high quality pre-K qualification. So to expand on this, this code table 207 will now function as a fatal error if not complete. Prior, it was previously functioning as a special warning. So our touch points with districts, this actually the past few years, have really taught us that sometimes the coding is not, or this code is not being entered because it's either overlooked because it was a special warning, or a teacher really was not meeting that requirement. So now the change to this code table as a fatal warning will really help us with accurate data, where you will either obviously code those options or use codes 98 or 99 for teachers who do not meet the requirement. A special note here is that substitute teachers are not reported as school staff, or what we consider that teacher of record, unless they are considered long-term substitutes. And the language there is if a teacher has quit, died, or been terminated from employment, and the district has not hired a permanent replacement, then the staff data are required for the long-term substitute who is working on the PEAMS fall snapshot date, which is the last Friday in October. And that language comes straight from TWEDS in that complex type details, if you are wondering where that comes from. And so that's a special note when you are recording your teacher of record. A common frequently asked question we get on this matter is, do districts have to report the high quality teacher qualification code for teachers who teach 3-year-olds? So this is the caveat to that high quality pre-K when we are talking about pre-K for only classrooms. But no, only teachers who are serving those pre-K for eligible 4-year-olds must be reported in ECDS. So you do not have to report the teachers teaching only 3-year-olds. However, if it is a mixed classroom serving both eligible 4-year-olds and 3-year-old students, then yes, the teacher qualification code must be reported in ECDS because of those eligible 4-year-old students. Okay, so we are in our last section. We went quite a bit faster than I hoped, which is great because we can address any questions before we move to the breakout rooms. But a few things that we want to highlight. Number one is an administrative code. There's 2 points that are really important regarding documentation and program evaluation. So a school district or an open enrollment charter school shall maintain locally and provide at the TEA's requests the necessary documentation to ensure fidelity of high quality pre-K program implementation. So this includes the documentation regarding teacher qualification options. The program evaluation rule states that a plan for data-driven program improvements is used annually by using information from the district or charter school's program evaluation to ensure the district's or charter school's pre-K program is meeting all high-quality pre-kindergarten indicators. And this also includes the teacher qualification requirements. So therefore, it's really important that systems are implemented by the LEA because they are key to the effective implementation and documentation of those high-quality pre-K requirements, including teacher qualifications. I also want to highlight something that was shared in the chat. We really want to make sure that this information is shared early to our teachers so that they are engaging in those teacher qualification components and gathering everything they need in order to meet that requirement early on, rather than towards the end when the data is submitted in June. Another thing I wanted to highlight on this page, so everything you see here will be linked in the slide deck. And I do want to share that this recording will be available, and ironically, it is not here. We'll share it in the chat after this session, but we have our ECE resources page that you could find within our ECE main page, and that has all of our recordings. That slide was actually shared a bit back when we were talking about professional development. So that is where you will find this recording. And we usually repeat this recording in the spring as well, so that you can get all the information you need. Here you will see everything that we've talked about is linked, including statute changes to administrative code, TSDS code tables, everything you will need to adhere to the teacher qualification component. The QR code goes straight to our ECE support portal. Should you have any specific questions, doesn't have to be just about teacher qualifications, but anything related to early childhood, that is available for you. And looking at the next slide, this is our presentation survey for this session. What I did want to highlight is that we have a question added to the survey to ask if there's anything that you think needs to be clarified in regards to teacher qualifications or any of the resources that we provide. So we do want to thank you. Before we head off of this session, we will go through the Q&A, and we are also going to offer breakout room sessions should you have very specific questions.